There you go. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Well, welcome everyone to the August 18th Contour community meeting. I hope everyone is enjoying their Kubecon. So let's get started. Firstly, I guess I will need to share my screen. Hang on. I miss you, Jonas, by the way. Okay, so let me share this one. Okay. So I've got a PR here with this is the old one. I needed to reopen it. Changed the main branch to main. But yes, I've opened a PR here just to tell everybody. I've pushed out the delivery dates for a number of deliverables because we're spending some time refactoring in order to actually be able to do some of this stuff. Steve raised a good point that that XDS upgrade has to be finished by December, so I put it ahead of some of the other things. This is one of the big things that we've needed to do a bunch of refactoring to be able to do. Right now, the XDS v2 stuff is sort of has tendrils very deep into Contour, and part of what we're doing with the refactoring is trying to drop some API surface around some of that stuff to make this stuff easier to flip out. So yeah, I'm going to leave that open for a few days in case anyone has any comments. But if you don't, then great. We will do our best to have those things delivered at or before those times. But they are only guidelines; they're just guesses. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for adding in the Meet the Maintainer sessions and the BOF. So I think, yeah, we've got some discussion issues as well. So I guess most of what we've been working on is the refactor. Do any of the maintainers want to talk about that at all? Steve, James?
I know I started working on a little bit of the in Contour. There's this idea of the builder in the DAG package, and its job is to basically take all of the ingress objects, proxy objects, TCP proxies, all those different things, process through them, come up with validation rules, meaning is it valid, is it not valid, does it match a service in Kubernetes, do all of that like business logic, and then that gets built into the DAG. And then once you have that graph, you can walk that graph and come up with envoy configuration. One of the problems we have today is that is all baked into one single file called builder.go, which is super difficult to maintain as you add more things. So as we look to add service APIs, it gets just more and more complex and more fluff in there. So I'm working on trying to break that apart into pieces so we can make it more componentized. So we can have ingress be a section. Once the ingress v1 gets support, we can put that in. Proxy will have one, and then your service APIs will have another bit. So that's kind of what I've been poking around with. James, you want anything what you've been doing?
Yeah, so I posted a big chunky PR yesterday, which introduces the concept of a, what did I call it? Service cluster. Fuck, I can't remember what I called it.
Yeah, service cluster is what you called it.
Thanks. So I call it. So basically, internally Contour has just a service, right? So it has a service which is kind of like a HTTP, a Envoy HTTP layer thing. Then that internal, and then it has a one-to-one relationship between the HTTP layer concept of a service and the way it collects endpoints. So we need to break that because for auth, we need a Envoy cluster which can be backed by more than one Kubernetes service. So we need to kind of break this implicit one-to-one relationship between the way endpoints are constructed and the way the internal service model works. So this is a big refactor and basically a rewrite of the way we handle endpoints. So one of the benefits is that it's actually all explicit now. Like you can follow the code directly by reading code. You don't have, it doesn't depend on the kind of special creation of cluster load assignment names, which everything kind of depended on before. So it's easier to kind of reverse engineer what's going on.
Thanks, James. Yeah, so it'd be good to get everyone to take a look over that. And please, yeah, it's even just reviewing and reading through a PR like that is actually a really good way to understand quite a bit about how Contour handles endpoints and sort of start getting your fingers into the guts of Contour. Okay, so I've just pinged Chad, but he doesn't seem to have responded yet. Let's go ahead and Daneyon, thanks for keeping us honest about the service API stuff and the other things that are going on. Yeah, do you want to talk through what you would like here?
Yeah, I guess what I'm looking for is help from the community or collaboration with the community on how we can start listing out what needs to be done in preparation for adding service APIs, and then as a follow-on to that, or whatever we know exists, what work needs to be done to add service APIs support. And so that's essentially what those two sub-bullets are identifying.
Yep, cool. So Steve, part of what you've been doing is going to help with that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, adding, splitting apart the builder and making it more flexible will make it more straightforward to add in those bits. So you'll know, there'll be an interface you'll have to implement, which right now is very simple, but you have to, to add those bits in there. So yes.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I think the way I see what Steve's working on is that you'll end up being able to have like a ingress builder, a HTTP proxy builder, a service APIs builder, or maybe service APIs will have multiple builders, so you can kind of configure them at the top level. That's kind of where you're aiming at, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah. So the idea of builder, yeah, exactly. So there'll be an interface in builder, which I've called like build processors now. Again, names we can figure out later, but you'll configure a processor for every type, like James usually says. So ingress, proxy, all those sort of things. And then builder will call each one of those and say, hey, go run process service APIs, go process ingress, go process this. What we'll have to decide on is how we reconcile those together, because today there's a notion of like HTTP proxy objects take precedence over ingress objects. So if we want to have that hierarchy or not in Contour, or if Contour should handle things separately, meaning if you had ingress objects sitting alongside service APIs objects, what should happen, I guess? Should you process both? Should they get merged or not? Some of those kind of rules we'll have to think about, but yeah, absolutely, yeah. So the idea is there'll be an interface you add, and that'll help implement that bit.
Hey, sorry, Nick, go ahead.
Just on that, I just wanted to say, yeah, so Daniel, just to be clear, that's how it works at the moment, because the builder is serial. It takes the Kubernetes objects and turns them into the DAG. That's a serial process where it goes through and does X object, then Y object, then Z object, and it runs through and does the ingress objects. That's ingress with a capital I, and then it does HTTP proxy afterwards. So if it finds the same config from HTTP, the same vhost from HTTP proxy, the HTTP proxy config will overwrite whatever it has in common with ingress. This has been a handy behavior, but I don't know if it will still fly in a sort of a slightly more extensible world. So just for background. Sorry, Michael, you go.
No, I was going to ask something that you actually answered. I was going to say the Ingress V1 stuff that they're doing, the capital I, we're going to be using the same processor, and it looks like you answered it already.
Yes, yes, and that's the other intent here is, so there is another big question that we've got to answer here, and that's what we're going to do about ingress class and gateway class. Right now, the way Contour has, one contour equals one ingress class, and so we need to make the decision whether or not we're going to keep that behavior or if we're going to do something more clever. I kind of lean towards keeping the thing that one contour deployment equals one ingress class, regardless of how the ingress class or gateway class is configured. There are some tricky semantics about how if you've got one contour looking for an ingress class, does that mean it also looks for a gateway class of the same name? Do we have two separate configs? How does that work? So that's probably a thing that we need to decide and define. I'll put something on that 2287, Daneyon, that and maybe we can create a discussion ticket, a discussion issue about it, to sort of so that we can all have a place where we talk about that and try and come to an agreement. But yeah, that one I think is the other big thing. James?
Yeah, config is still a thing too. So when we right now we have the config map, which is bound to the contour deployment, but in a ingress class, gateway class world, we can bind the config to the class. Well,
Yeah.
at least that's how that's sort of supposed to work.
Yeah.
So we
exactly.
should. So I think there's a lot of things to think about. I think we need to kind of step back and think about with these things about what is the right deployment model, like what deployment models. Yeah,
Yeah.
what deployment models do people actually need? Are we is the way we do it now like what people actually want? What could be better, what could be different?
So so Daneyon, that's probably a pretty hard blocker to actually doing much to doing coding, because the first thing we're going to need to implement is gateway classes, and we're kind of stuck on implementing the egress v1 ingress classes at the moment because of this exact problem. So Steve, I know you were working on the ingress class v1. There is an issue for the v1 ingress class, right?
Yeah, there is. James have that. There's that, and then the prefix type, where it's a path prefix or a path type or a prefix type.
Right. Okay. I will go hunting for those before I go back to bed today, and link them into the 2287 so that we can try and get some discussion happening there. I think the key thing here in my mind is the service APIs and ingress are sort of specifically built to allow you to do this sort of config. What we've got to decide is if, from a contour point of view, that's the way we want to do it, and how we want to use the tools that we have from the actual objects.
So Daneyon, in OpenShift, how do you deploy the data plane for the current proxy layer for OpenShift ingress?
Right, so the data plane in OpenShift 4x, which that data plane is HA proxy. So that's deployed and fully managed by an operator, which kind of gets me to the last bullet point of today's discussion, if we have time.
Yep.
And happy, I think Mikhail's on the call here too. So we're happy if there's time to spare, we could jump into all sorts of details on that. But before we get into this really quick though, Nick, can we just go back to the, so for issue 2287, I have those two sub bullets of, hey, let's list out. Can we go back to the community meeting notes?
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So we've got these two sub bullets, and I'm totally on board, like the second sub bullet of like, hey, let's list what we need to do to implement service APIs. I'm fine, and I think it may be best, let's just kind of shelf that, put that in the back burner for now, and let's just list like what needs to be done in preparation for service APIs. And there was like 3 or 4 different things that were rattled off. And so if we can just get links to whatever those issues or PRs that everyone was talking about, that would be really helpful so that we can at least just go to 2287 and start seeing, okay, here's all the stuff that's in flight or that needs to be addressed. Because I want to start like looking into that stuff and helping me come up to speed. And then hopefully here in the near future, I feel comfortable enough that I could start helping out. But at this point, I just feel like, I started looking at, what was it? Adopt a controller runtime cache. I started looking at that. I still need to go back, look at it some more. But I guess long story short, if we could just, for the time being, use 2287, all the knowledge that you guys have, just start putting whatever you think needs to be addressed in preparation for service APIs. We can organize it from there, but at least get it into one place because, for people like myself and Micaiah, it will help us come up to speed on all the work and issues needed to achieve service APIs.
Okay, I think that's an entirely reasonable request. I will put as much as I can think of. Steve and James, please add in your own ones as well. And then that way, hopefully in a day or two we can get that. And as I said, I'll create another issue for us to be able to talk out the larger issue about the various class objects on both ingress class and gateway class. And add that one in.
Yeah, because these two issues, 2287 and 2187, they're definitely high on a priority list for me and Micaiah and basically the Red Hat contributors. So.
Yep. Well, yeah, I mean, the more we can unblock you so that you can get started on doing that, the better. I think there's one of the reasons why we decided to sort of stop a lot of the feature work and start do a bunch of refactoring is that all of us were finding that we were stuck and not able to easily hand off any of this stuff because everything had fingers into everything else.
Yeah, and I think it's a great opportunity to to get things right before adding more complexity with service APIs it's just a useful tool for me to start exploring the code and not just, for Contour, but, I need to brush off a lot of dust with Envoy, and the Go control plane is a new project for me. So I spent some time looking at that. My intent is to spend a lot more time, and hopefully come up to speed so I can, when we get to the point of adding service API support to Contour, myself and potentially others from the Red Hat side are, ready to just, we already have that baseline knowledge and we're ready to hit the ground running and really start to help out the community.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
So I think definitely the work Steve has underway about being able to add your own builders is needed here. I'm 50-50 about the controller runtime cache. That's kind of like I think this work Steve is doing will make it easier to swap that in. And I think if we do that, it will make it easier to add new things like service APIs. But I'm not sure if we should block on it or whether we have someone who's like scheduled to do that work. It's a chunk of work.
Well, then the work that Steve's doing, I'm very interested in that. So if we get that linked into 2287, here very soon, I'm going to start diving into it. Not to say that I'm, going to be able to help there, but again, just a lot of this is going to be just, kind of bootstrapping myself and some of the others from the Red Hat team.
Yeah, I agree with you, James. I don't know that the caches are a showstopper or a great save, in terms of implementing all this stuff. I think it'd be nice, but it's not what we have now will work, I think.
Because the other part that I'm doing is just like putting together like a plan on how myself and others from Red Hat can start contributing. And so of course there's a focus around the service API stuff, but the plan is here in the near future that we're starting to contribute just, issues that we feel we can help out with, PRs. And again, all this stuff's going to be small, just again, get us going so that when, we can eventually build up to doing some more complex work in the project.
Sorry, I'm just. I think Chad got the wrong time, so I think just finding out from him whether or not he wants to come and go through his thing. I think it might be better to do it next week.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, next
Yeah,
week.
that's okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problems, man. Yeah, so do you? So it looks like you want to sort of go through setting up local dev environment and talking through some of the architecture stuff.
Yeah. So I've got me and two other guys that are kind of looking at the Contour source code. We because we have such a dependency, right, on the successful, work of the proxy. Not only from a couple of things that we want to do is we want to help. I submitted that issue about the header modification, and discuss that with the team. Really understand the architecture. We already started kind of playing with it in our own branch. Like working with the policies, like those header policies, looking at that integration with Envoy, better understanding kind of how that works, learning about like the Go control plane, the Envoy v3 stuff. I think some recent merges have occurred, or I think a lot of work is, being done there, understanding the DAG, so that we can, help get some of these things past the finish line, maybe, and work with the team on that.
Yeah, no problem. So
that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think this applies to both Chad and Daneyon. We absolutely, really would appreciate the help, but also we're also coming from a place where we haven't had a lot of people working on Contour before, so we're kind of needing to build the structures to enable like non-maintainers to work on it easily. We haven't been good at that in the past, I think. And I mean, obviously I want to get better, but we've got to, that's the other reason for the refactoring is to make it so that it's easier. You don't need to learn how all of Contour works in order to be able to change part of it. I think, I feel like setting over a local dev environment and sort of an architecture review, those are actually great topics, Steve, for maybe for an office hours sometime.
I was gonna say there's one scheduled for this Thursday, but I wasn't sure if we were gonna keep it or not. Do a Kubecon, and it overlaps with the Contour office hours for Kubecon, second hour of it. Okay. So I was thinking we might cancel that and just do the Kubecon one since it's such a crazy time.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. That we do the Contour office hours, and maybe we can just start the Contour office hours and ask for questions, but then if no one has many questions, then we can start doing an architecture review and sort of talk through how the different bits of Contour fit together to actually end up programming Envoy. And I mean, that's probably a good introduction for people who want to know more about Contour, and as well as being quite useful for people who know a little bit about it already and want to know more. Chad, how does that sound?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. I mean, I appreciate it and look forward to it. We're really excited, and just whatever we can support. So.
And so I would also say anyone in the community who's sort of interested in contributing more, the other thing that you can do is please feel free to, like, on the PRs that us maintainers are currently sort of talking amongst ourselves about, like, please feel free to come in and ask questions there. Like if we're having a discussion about something, please feel free to say, hey, why did you do this, or or that sort of thing. If it's long involved, we can take it to a Zoom, we can that sort of thing. But I mean, we're refactoring a bunch of this stuff already, so and you looking at those PRs is probably a good way to understand a bit of like how things are going to end up, what we're trying to do, and so please feel free to just jump in there and ask questions and that sort of stuff on those PRs. It's better that we get more feedback now than us change a whole bunch of stuff and then have it, more eyes is better, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I have been up a lot in the last 24 hours.
Is there a calendar link? Is there for the Contour office hours? Is it on the calendar anywhere?
I think John has sent it out.
Yeah, it should be if you sign up for the 1 mailing list. Where is it?
Okay, maybe it's just my calendar doesn't have it. It could just be a me bug.
Yeah, I mean the office hours start earlier before the office hours at the Kubecon event, so maybe you know, like I don't know if you want to cancel them completely or just start one and then move to the other.
I think that might be a good idea to start the normal Contour one earlier,
Yeah.
and that way we can go a bit more in depth there and keep it a little slightly. We can probably keep do the local dev environment one first, Steve, and then do the sort of the broader architecture review as part of the Kubecon one.
Yeah. And we didn't do that here, but pretty much most of the other CNCF communities, they cancel all their community meetings this week so people can concentrate on Kubecon. My bad, I was gone. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I specifically didn't because I wanted to be able to have to tell people some of the news, to have the thing to be able to tell people some of the news. But yeah, I mean, normally I agree we should probably cancel the meetings during Kubecon. Okay, well, we are out of time. Is there anything else anyone wants to quickly talk through? Chad, I'm really sorry about the time. Confusion there.
Absolutely, thank you. No, just to clarify, so are we canceled for this Thursday because of Kubecon, or should we still plan for that architecture review this Thursday?
I think we should definitely still plan for an architecture review in there's a Contour office hours session as part of Kubecon.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And that time slot actually overlaps with the normal time slot we have for the Contour office hours.
Okay.
So, Steve, could you put the times for are you okay with running the normal one, or do you want to do Kubecon stuff?
No, that's fine. Yeah, I just wasn't sure who we have folks now to come. I just didn't want to sit there myself for an hour. If everyone's busy with Kubecon, that was the idea. But yeah, no, I'm happy to do it. So yeah, it's 1 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. I'll go find the link.
If you could maybe pop a sort of description in the channel of, hey, we're going to run an hour of the normal office hours at this time,
okay.
and in the channel as well, and then we'll do the office hours for the actual Kubecon office hours, and we should probably put that the time slot for that in the office hours wiki too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks again for everyone's feedback, Daneyon and Mackay. I really appreciate. Keep pushing us, please. It's easy for us to get lost in the shuffle and forget to do things. So really appreciate all that. And Chad, thanks for being excited. It's really cool to to have some people coming and being like, please, we want to help. What can we do?
There's me and 2 others, so we got 3 Go developers.
Wow, that's heaps of people. Awesome. So yeah, we really gotta pull our fingers out and finish making it so that people can actually contribute. And also, there are some getting started docs on in the docs website. If you could have a look through those and tell us where they're falling down. You only get a chance to get started with the project once, so anything you can do to help with those docs would be absolutely ace.
Absolutely. Yeah. So lessons learned, happy to contribute documentation, or we may even do like a blog or something. Just as like a, hey, here's how you get started. So.
Yep. Fantastic. Thanks very much, everyone. I guess we will see you all next week when it's a little less crazy.
Cool. Thanks. See you, Steve.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.